Well, first of all, thanks to Enoforum USA and for inviting me for to give this presentation. And also, I'd like to thank you, the Vazon Group company. The title of my presentation is Reducing Oxidizability and Achieving Olfactory Cleanness in Wines, synergy between a specific inactivated yeast and physical processes. So the presentation will be split in two. So there will be two presenters, my colleague Gian Maria Zanella and myself. And I will focus on, well, you see highlighted in the title here, the physical processes. This will be the topic of my presentation. Okay, this is the summary. So I'm going to talk about the importance of gases in winemaking, the occurrence of oxygen dissolution and the CO2 dissolution, the methods of the gas management available during the winemaking. I'm going to then explain more into the details, the membrane technology. I'm going to show you what we can accomplish in terms of gas management. And I'm going to present the gas management in Enology, the Mastermind Remove Plus machine by Dozon. And I'm going to conclude with the enological advantages. Okay, so let's start with the importance of gases in winemaking. So oxygen, it is important during the yeast rehydration and also during alcoholic fermentation. And it is also important for the color stabilization, so the formation of the polymeric pigments in red wines. But beware of oxygen, especially during some steps of the winemaking, for example, during the pressing, and especially during the bottling, because ideally we like to bottle the wine with zero oxygen in the bottle. And be careful with the white wines because the white wines are more sensitive and more oxidizable compared to red wines. CO2 is important, and it is used for inerting during the cold settling. Of course, it is extremely important in the sparkling wines. It gives the bubbles. And it is important also in the ready to drink young wines because it gives some freshness by mouth. Be careful with the beware of CO2 in red wines with aging potential because the CO2 synergizes with the tannins and increases the astringency of the wines. And be careful with the CO2 in the bagging box. Okay, so here in this slide, I'm gonna talk about the mercaptans, they are sulfur compounds, and these gases, volatile compounds, are responsible for the what we call the reduction wine fault. So you see in this slide a list of the list of the main sulfur compounds. And there's actually two families. There's mercaptans, the first three, but also highlighted in yellow, there's the disulfides. And usually the disulfides, they are produced during wine aging, but I'm going to explain a little bit of the chemistry later. And what I would like to draw your attention on is that in the last column, you see the sensory thresholds, and you see that the disulfides, the sensory threshold is much higher than compared to the mercaptans. Okay, and I said I'm going to explain the chemistry. So basically, a mercaptan, also a tile. This is like they are synonyms in chemistry, but usually in the enological jargon, mercaptans are bad smelly compounds, and tiles are nice smelling compounds present in Sauvignon Blanc and some other wines. Anyway, so the for the mercaptans, the functional group is SH, which is oxidizable. And so in the presence of oxygen, it can be oxidized to the disulfide SS group. With, as I said earlier in the previous slide, a lower sensory impact. And this usually happens during the barrel aging, so when the wine is in contact with the oxygen. But then, before we go to bottle, we bottle the wine. We add sulfites. In addition, the sulfites decreases the redox potential of the wine, and so we can go back to the formation of, from the disulfides. We go back to the formation of the mercaptans with the higher sensory impact. And so sometimes before going to bottle, we smell the wine, and it is not, it doesn't seem to be reduced because we have mainly disulfides with the higher sensory impact, sensory threshold, and then after addition of sulfites, we bottle the wine, and after 2-3 months we open the bottle, and the wine is reduced, and this is the explanation from the chemical standpoint. Anyway, so occurrence of oxygen dissolution. Where are the steps where during winemaking where we can have oxygen dissolution in the wine during the cold settling, the racking, the transfer, filtration, post-refrigeration, and small wine lots within oversized tanks, for example. The occurrence of CO2 dissolution, mainly it is during alcoholic fermentation. Of course, the highest amount of CO2 is produced during alcoholic fermentation, but also in the lesser extent, it is produced during malolactic fermentation. So during winemaking process, CO2 is difficult to manage. Okay, so based on the analogical objective, it is important to manage the gases in wines with as much as possible precision. And what are the gas management methods that are currently available? Mainly there are two. So the first one is the ceramic membrane cartridges. What happens is that if when you use the cartridges, we can strip the gas that we would like to strip by using an inert gas. But it can also be used, this technology, for adding addition of CO2. And then the other technology is the membrane contactors technology, which is I'm going to explain in my today's presentation. So the problem with the ceramic membrane cartridges is that they have a very poor precision, and especially they are non-selective. So you cannot like strip just one single gas or a few of them, but also the stripping occurs also for the positive aromas. The efficiency is quite poor, and also the bubbling. When adding this CO2, the bubbling, it's quite coarse, the perlage. Now, back in 2013, there was a resolution de la OIV, Organisation Internationale de la Vigne et du Vin. They allowed the use of membrane contactors during the winemaking. And what I would like to show you here is highlighted in bold. You see that method physique. It's a physical method. So the interesting idea here of this technology is that there's no use of chemicals. It's just a physical method. Now let's get more into the details and the membrane contactor technology. This is a microporous hydrophobic fiber, okay, that does not allow the transfer of liquids, but it does allow the transfer of gases from and to the liquids, like for example, CO2 can be removed, but also can be added if we need to do so. And here is like schematically the way it works. From one side of the membrane, we have the wine flowing, and the other side, the opposite side, we have either the vacuum or we have an inert gas. And through the pores, there's the transfer of gases. Now, the gas transfer is strongly influenced by the process parameters, which are the initial concentration, the temperature, and the delta pressure. And this is the Henry law of the gases. So now let's see exactly the membrane that is used in the MMR Plus machine. What it does allow to do, okay? So the membrane, the cutoff is 50 the molecular weight, okay? So through the pores, all the molecules, volatile molecules that are below 50 molecular weight, they can be transferred in and out, okay? And mainly this is related to five molecules, volatile molecules, gases. It's the CO2 that I already mentioned, the oxygen alreready mentioned, H2S, hydrogen sulfide, okay, so responsible for the reduction manifold, methanetyl, another mercaptan, bad smelling, and acetaldehyde when it's free, because when it is bound to sulfites, it doesn't go through the membrane. And the interesting thing is that positive aromas are not affected, because the positive aroma that has the lower molecular weight is around 63, and so they are not stripped. Now, what can be accomplished in terms of gas management? So we can remove oxygen, we can manage the CO2, so enrichment or removal. Interestingly, we can remove H2S and methanetyl, potential elimination of acetaldehyde when it's not bound to sulfites, and the management reduction of the alcohol level can be accomplished also with the same machine. And this is the machine, okay, MMR Plus. Now, possible applications during the winemaking process. It can be used during the pump over, during the transfer racking, during the post filtration, and just before bottling, at the bottling, to eliminate as much as possible the oxygen. So enological advantages. So we can eliminate the oxygen, preserves the aromatic potential, because oxygen is and probably the worst enemy of wine, and this will improve the aging potential, particularly beneficial for making low or no added sulfite wines. Also, CO2 elimination. It is beneficial for bag-in-box. It prevents the swelling of the packaging. Red wines designed for long aging, because it improves eliminating the CO2, improves the mouthfeel and roundness. In the addition of CO2, it increases the perception of freshness on white and rosé wines or ready-to-drink wines. to drink wines. And very interestingly, the elimination of H2S and methanethiol is the elimination of reduction of aromas. And also enhancement of the intensity of fruity and floral notes, because the mercaptans H2S and methanethiol, they act as masking. They have a masking effect on the fruitiness and the floral of the wines. Again, enological advantages of mercaptans elimination. So this here, I'm going to show you a study, an article, scientific article that was conducted in Zaragoza by the Vicente Ferreira research group. So what they did was they added H2S and methanethiol to a wine, and then they did the sensory threshold, the sensory perception, sensory study. And what happened was that even when H2S and methanethiol are present at concentration below the perception threshold, so you cannot smell, H2S like rotten eggs, or methanethiol like garlic, etc. They are not smellable because they were below threshold, but they they have an important masking effect on the fruity and floral attributes. Okay, H2S is the precursor of the volatile compounds responsible for wine reduction fault. Okay, so H2S is always produced during alcoholic fermentation because it is very important for the biosynthesis of essential amino acids like cysteine and methionine. But then what happened is, and here I'm going to show you two articles that they show evidence that hydrogen sulfide is the precursor, and then during the winemaking process and wine aging process, some other mercaptans and disulfides can be formed. Okay, hydrogen in this first study that I'm showing, hydrogen sulfide production during yeast fermentation causes the accumulation of ethanethiol, S-ethyl thioacetate, and diethyl sulfide. Okay, and then in this other study shows that H2S is the precursor, and mediated by copper and iron and oxygen, it produces some other mercaptans and polysulfides. Okay, therefore it is very important, very desirable to remove H2S before it reacts further to form the mercaptans and the other sulfur compounds. And this is the my last slide, and showing a study, very interesting study. Beware of copper. Okay, so in this study, what they did was they added H2S to a white wine, and then they added copper. There was a time of incubation, okay, to let react the H2S with the copper. And then did a filtration, and filtration was very tight, was 0.45 or 0.2 micron. And the result was that negligible concentrations of copper were found on the membrane, on the filter, okay? Which means that H2S copper does bind to H2S, but it doesn't precipitate, okay? So it cannot be removed. It stays in solution in the wine. And then it is possible that during wine aging, it can be released, okay? And also the copper, as it is quite known, it was was active in mediating the browning, so the color that becomes darker in the white wine. Gonna finish with the some pictures of the NNIR plus machine, and I would like to acknowledge Juclas and Dazon Group for inviting me to give this presentation, and grazie per l'attenzione. And if you have any questions, you can contact me Marco at enolfactive.com. Thank you very much.